Mr. Montes, it's just scheduling and kind of touching base with you all on those particular cases on their trials, because it's just getting messy. All our trial docket is getting a little messy, so I want to make sure I touch base with you all. Good morning, this is Judge Alyssa Perez presiding over the 210th court docket for September 2nd, 2022. All matters being heard today are being heard in accordance with all emergency orders and directives regarding COVID-19. In addition to that, we are streaming all matters live via YouTube for public viewing. Mr. Marufo, would you call our first case, please?
In cause number 2021-0D00709, State of Texas versus Angel Villapando. Announcement of council, please.
Preston Munson for the state. The state is ready, Your Honor.
Good morning, Judge. Ruben Ortiz on behalf of Mr. Villalpando.
Good morning. And you know, I had just missed it, Mr. Ortiz, because I think we had a status like the week before, but I don't know that we got too in depth, I guess, on how we're going forward. Well, the reason I wanted to bring you in is because you had mentioned at that hearing that there was pending a review of some evidence. And then in looking at the case, I saw several motions. I don't know why I don't have my notes in front of me, notes I wrote on this. There were several motions that you filed way back in March. And so my concern was this. With our trial coming up, we need to set those because I don't want those to be a delay for the trial.
Okay, Judge. And I can tell you that I've been discussing this with whatever ADA had the case at the time. Mr. Munson and I spoke, I think last week, and we spoke again, I don't know, a couple days ago, maybe. In regards, there's some physical evidence. It's kind of weird because the physical evidence is not in portal. I can't, but we need to physically view this evidence. It's one of those. This is a weird case, and I really need to look at that evidence. It has to deal with fingerprints, Judge. So, in order for me to get to even, in order for me to get past first base, I need to at least my client and myself need to look at that evidence, physical evidence. And then we need to decide what we're going to do with that, if we're going to challenge that or not at that point, Your Honor.
So this seems to me like there's been no movement. I have a motion or a request to physically view the bags with latent fingerprints filed in December of 2021. So
yeah,
we've been this for 8 months.
Right. We've been discussing it, I think, probably on the record, Your Honor, since then, or even that's why I filed my motions, just to kind of, so we can bring it up.
Right, but we've done nothing in 8 months. Do you have a scheduled time to inspect?
Yes, I think next week. I think Mr. Munson is given. I'd have to talk to my staff, but they're the ones that they're schedule my they're the ones that tell me what to do, Your Honor.
And Your Honor,
with my calendar.
I can add a little to that. I talked to his assistant Natalie yesterday, or maybe it was 2 days ago, to set up a time they're available next week, and then I have my investigator working to get it all set up for them to view the evidence sometime in the next week on Tuesday through Thursday, sometime in one of those days.
Okay, so with respect to your request to physically view, I'm assuming that's been satisfied because there is a time scheduled.
I mean, there's a time scheduled, Judge. I am going to file a motion to continue. I think this case is set for trial, next week?
I think 2 weeks, September 20th. I'm sorry.
Okay, yes.
23rd.
Yes.
Is it your
first
trial?
I'm not sure, Judge. I'm not sure if it is or not. I know I've never asked I don't think I've asked for continuance on this case, Judge.
Yeah, you may not have. Let me see. No, we had a jury trial back in December, and that's when you file your request to look at that evidence.
Right.
So we canceled it. And then we had a jury trial on July 15th. And now we have one in September. So what about the motion to suppress?
I mean, really, it's all based on that evidence, Judge. That evidence is the key to this case, in my opinion. And we've been wanting to look at that evidence for a while now, Judge. That was the only really thing holding up this case, as far as for me at least. But I know that I mean, what can I tell you, Judge? I mean, there's been several different changes, with your prosecutors, I think, on this case, Judge. So
Yeah, I'm not
I don't
sure.
think Mr. Munson has had the case the entire time, Your Honor. I think there was somebody else on it beforehand.
Yeah, but I still don't understand why we were waiting 8 months to move on these. What about your motion to suppress? The defense does have a motion for continuance in June. I think that was your travel situation.
Okay, yeah. I was going out of town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Judge. I mean, the motion to suppress, really, it has to do with that. I mean, really, the fingerprint evidence is really what we're looking at. But I mean, once I see that, then we'll know if we need to go forward on that or not.
So you're not telling me anything, Mr. Ortiz, other than things are delayed.
I mean,
it puts me
Judge,
in a position because.
Well, what would you like? Let me ask you this: What do you need from me, Your Honor?
So I'm going to set a hearing date. I'm going to set a hearing date for your request to physically view the bags with the latent fingerprints.
Yes, ma'am.
Your motion to access physical evidence and have an independent and have I thought I said a phone. There's something regarding a phone. I haven't yet heard anything about a phone.
Right.
That was filed in March of this year. That's at least
right. That was another motion I filed because there was other mention of that a phone, and we feel like we need to have someone look at that also.
Mr. Munson,
really,
with the phone.
I'll look into seeing, making sure that's available for Mr. Ortiz as well.
See, this is my issue. My issue is we're 2 weeks out from trial and we're still just looking into things that have been filed months ago, and we're on the eve of trial again. So the request to physically view the bags, the motion to suppress, the motion to access physical evidence, and the phone independently analyzed will all be set for September 19th. Yeah, September 19th. Let me double check our calendar.
Yes, Your Honor.
So with the exception of going to trial, I think we can do that date. So let's do it on the 19th at 8:30. Each of those will be set for hearing. So Mr. Munson, I don't know if you need witnesses or anything like that for that motion for suppress, get ready. And that'll get us right before the trial setting. I know you mentioned a motion for continuance, Mr. Ortiz, so file it if you want me to consider it. I'll consider it on that day as well.
I mean, I'll file it, Judge, and then if we need to go forward on it, Judge, is it okay if I request it at that time? Ron?
Sure, yeah, that's fine. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much,
and that's
gentlemen.
going to be Monday, September 19th, Judge?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And yeah, it's all in person, lest there be confusion.
Thank you, Judge. In
Thanks
person. We'll see you in person, Judge.
Adios. See you then. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
You.
Bye-bye.
Who's next?
Cause number 2021-030-2928, State of Texas versus Kim Hookendorn. Announcement of council, please.
Javier Salcedo, Assistant District Attorney for the state, ready to proceed.
Good morning, Your Honor. Jose Montes for Kim Hugendorn, ready to go.
And thank you, Mr. Montes, Mr. Salcedo. This is also one of those September 23rd trial settings. But Mr. Montes, I'm not sure if they're separate, 2 motions to suppress that were filed back in April, which have not been set for a hearing. And we did have at least a final hearing plea deadline, maybe a jury trial setting in July, but we've never had the motion to suppress. You've not requested a hearing. So where is this case going?
Your Honor, thank you. Your Honor, as the court will recall, Ms. Hugendorn had an amputation, one of her legs. The recommendation was drastically reduced to 2 TDC, but it's our contention that she would not be able to serve prison time. And I think TDC would consider her case, because of her age and the possible liability issues, very risky. So we're asking Mr. Salcedo and the state to consider something like deferred or adult probation so that we can resolve this case.
Mr.
And I did send him the photos of the amputation.
Mr. Salcedo, had you had a chance to look at this yet?
I looked at the case, Your Honor, and that was one of the issues that we had, where was pending medical records of the Ms. Hugendorn's issues. But we are recommending at this time 5 years TDC, probated for 5. Or if you want to do the time, it's 2 TDC, which is the very minimum on this case.
Thank you, Mr. Salcedo. Judge, if I may have some time to discuss it with Ms. Hugendorn, she's on the line.
Okay, so I just need to make sure, I'm not gonna do that today. I'm gonna, I know we have in-person things as well. I just want to make sure we are no longer proceeding on the motion to suppress, so I don't need to try and squeeze a setting in before the 23rd. This may be.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Beautiful. Then I'll wait to see you all on the 20th, Mr. Montes. If you have a plea going, get it started sooner than later so we can get it set. Okay?
I'll talk to her right now. Thank you, Judge.
Appreciate all your time. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, who's next?
In cause number 2022-0D02964, State of Texas versus Andre Jesus Escriche. Announcement of council, please.
You, Mr. Reynolds?
Yeah, Mr. Reynolds. Did he freeze? He's frozen.
I think he was having some connection issues, Judge.
There he goes. Mr. Reynolds, are you connected okay?
Hello, yes.
Okay.
That's Jacob Reynolds for the state.
Thank you. Oh, I
I'm
remember
Gandara.
Mr. Reynolds. Okay. I was like, why do you look familiar? Well, not anymore. Sorry, Mr. Gandara, go ahead.
I'm Gandara for Andre Scricha. We're ready, Your Honor.
And again, thank you, gentlemen. Also, this is something, because it was a recent transfer, I saw that the state had filed.
What's going on with this?
Do you need a minute, Mr. Reynolds?
It appears that he does, Your Honor. I think he's walking out. I'll see if he can come over to my office or.
Sure, no worries. I'm patient with technical issues.
So he looks like he's.
I think I'm going to start calling Mr. Salcedo Mighty Mouse. He's coming to save the day. Thank you, Mr. Salcedo. I think I'm
Is this better?
up to speed. I'm fine until you freeze again, Mr. Reynolds. Are you okay? I don't have a problem if we need 5 minutes and you need to get a better place.
Oh, no, Your Honor. I found an Ethernet cable. We're good to go. I apologize for that.
Jacob,
All right.
if you need to come to my office, just come on over and you can use my screen if you need to.
Oh, no, I think I'm hardwired in, so we should be okay. We should be good to go.
All right. So Mr. Reynolds appearing on behalf of the state, Mr. Gandara, and Mr. Escricha is also here appearing remotely for this hearing. Thank you, sir, for appearing. And so I scheduled the state's motion to modify the bond. Oh, of course, now my system's going to go really slow. There it is. Okay. And Mr. Reynolds, you may proceed on that.
Yes, Your Honor. The state, in this case, while it was still in the 243rd, the state was made aware that Mr. Escriche had been repeatedly violating the conditions of his of a protective order that the CW in this case received protecting her from him after the initial offense. One of the CW has retained Jeep Darnell in a civil matter that she has against the defendant, and he passed along information from her regarding Mr. Escriche's continued attempts to communicate with her. She blocked him from all forms of communication on her phone and on her social media, and then he started bothering the CW's mom and sister trying to reach her. The initial protective order she received lapsed without anyone renewing it, and so Jeep Darnell's client, the CW in this case, is very concerned about her safety. This information was all passed on to me. The state is asking for a bond provision ordering the defendant to refrain from contacting the CW in any way.
Okay, so when did the protective order expire?
That protective order was dismissed, Your Honor, on the 9th of May of this year. And the parties were in a divorce proceeding, and they were communicating one way or another about property division and whatnot. The divorce was finalized by an agreed final decree, and that decree was filed on the May 18th of this year. So their personal issues regarding the marriage are all settled. The protective order expired in May. Mr. Escriche has not communicated with Casey Swiatek. He has communicated with her mother, but he understands at this point, although it was not made clear to it in any communication that I've seen, that mother did not want him to communicate with her. He understands now that she does not want that communication and will refrain from it 100%. He's fully employed. He has right now custody of his two girls from his previous marriage, pretty much full time because his ex-wife is out working for the Border Patrol, and she was in school and whatnot. But anyway, he's got his two girls. His mother and father help him take care of the girls during the day while he's at work. And he's not a flight risk, and he's not a threat to the public. And he all his issues with Ms. Swiatek are settled. He understands that, and he's disposed to completely refrain from communicating with that family. We have no notice of any other new protective order filed or any civil action filed. The lady's attorney was Patrick Bramblett, and the last we heard from Patrick Bramblett was that Ms. Swiatek was disposed upon an agreed division of the property, which is proceeds of the sale of a house, that she was willing to notify the court that she would like to back off on any punishment of Mr. Escriche for violating the protective order. But I don't know if we'll ever get that in writing at this point. And in any event, Mr. Escriche does not want to communicate with her anymore, and does not want to communicate with her mother anymore, or her sister, or anybody else. He's ready to go on his own way.
I'm looking at the motion, Mr. Reynolds. I think it's a general paragraph about contacts. Were these contacts after the divorce and after the protective order? Is that what we're talking about?
I know that there was the communications that happened initially that were the violations of the protective order. And then the communications that the CW has expressed concern about occurred after the protective order had expired. I believe she's been applying for a new protective order from the county attorney, but I don't have specific information on that.
And is there any purpose? I mean, I think Mr. Gandara, you mentioned, the divorce has been finalized, things should be settled. I don't recall. Did you say they had kids together? Is there any reason they need to be having any contact, the defendant with the complainant or the complainant's family?
No, there are no reasons. They don't have children together. All of their issues are settled, property division and all.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Mr. Reynolds? What are you asking in terms of the bond?
In terms of the bond, Your Honor, we're asking that the bond be modified to include a personal recognizance provision prohibiting any form of communication with the complaining witness in this case, either directly or indirectly through her family or friends.
Okay. That'll be the change on the bond, Mr. Gandara, is to include a PR component. I believe he's on a $2,500 cash surety. So I am going to add a $2,500. No, we don't have to do that. A $500 PR bond that includes monthly reporting via telephone. I don't think I really need to put any other conditions in terms of testing. I don't hear any allegations of, alcohol use or anything like that being a problem here. The only real component will be that commit no new offenses and have no contact with the complainant or her family. That includes via any third parties. I mean, if there's no reason to be speaking to her, communicating with her, None of it's going to be allowed because it sounds to me like, at least at this point, while this case is outstanding, I'm not so sure how receptive she is. And so what I need your client to understand, Mr. Gandara, is this is a restriction on his behavior. It is something that applies to him. I don't know, relationships are usually messy. They're not so clear cut. So if she's contacting you, you are not to respond. I mean, you will be violating the PR bond order if you respond to her, because you're not supposed to be having any communication, and then tell your attorney, because the only one that's subject to having any consequences, negative consequences here, is you. So with that, that'll be the additional PR bond component here, and then we'll just get this case scheduled for trial.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mhm.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Y'all are excused.
May we leave?
Yes.